Good morning. Hello. I'm Carolina. I'm your alcohol-free life coach and the author of the book Euphoric: Ditch Alcohol and Gain a Happier, More Confident You. And I have an incredible question from a client today about what happens when you and your partner drink together, and that's a shared activity you share. You have spent a lot of time together, and it's just something that's always been ingrained into your relationships. What if you're scared that your husband doesn't want to change, you want to change, and you're scared that this will actually tear a little rift between you two and actually make a little drift in your marriage? And I love this question because I think that this is such a common fear. If you're partnered up, it's very likely, almost like 90% likely, that your partner shares very similar drinking habits to you, and or at least it's something that you do together. Maybe you go to sushi nights together and have some sake. Maybe you go to the brewery together. Maybe you have game nights with alcohol. Maybe you split bottles of wine on the patio or watching a movie or something like that. It's very, very typical when you're partnered to share drinking together, right? And me and my husband were no different. We obviously also too share that together. So funny story. My husband and I met when I was 23 years old, and I literally had just finished up grad school then. I was still in college mode, basically. I had no responsible life yet. Like, I knew how to do my school stuff, but I like wasn't even in a full-time job yet when we met. So I partied really hard. And he was a little older than me, so immediately, like, we just started kind of drinking a lot together. I grew up from there though. I did get a job, we got married, we got a house, all the things. And so we weren't really drinking at 2 a.m. At a bar anymore necessarily. We're adults now, but we definitely shared alcohol. I mean, we would go to the pool and bring beers. We would go play pool at a bar and drink. We would go to our friend's house and drink at barbecues. So typical to share this. And I remember also being really scared of, like, well, what happens if I want to make this change and he doesn't? Because I remember thinking, like, if he wanted to stop drinking, I would feel really uncomfortable with that because, I'm losing my drinking buddy basically, and it's kind of awkward to drink alone, right? And so this is such a typical fear. And I have so many different strategies to share with you today on how to nip this fear in the bud and really keep aligned with the best choices moving forward for you. Now, it can be really typical, as I got with this question, to really feel that like, I'm interested in this, but my hubby's not. Like, and I've heard that from so many women I work with. I honestly think I don't want to make any kind of stereotypes or judgments or say anything, really broadly in the sense, but I think that women can be very intuitive. I think it's a gift that we've been given. I think that we have a lot of power with our intuition. And I think oftentimes women come to the conclusion that alcohol is not serving them a little earlier sometimes than men. Again, this is not like a broad statement. This is not some kind of typecast or anything like that. But I think that women are really, really deeply aligned with their intuition and start getting messages from their body, from their soul, and from their emotions that maybe alcohol is not serving them. Now, I don't think it's a difference between the actual biological genders. I do also think that men have been conditioned to literally suppress emotions and be very strong and tough, right? And so it's harder sometimes to listen to yourself if you're not used to listening to anything. And so I think women come to the conclusion faster. So it's actually super common in so many of the clients I've worked with where the wife, the woman of the relationship and the partnership, or the one who identifies as a woman, has come to the conclusion that alcohol's not serving her and the husband hasn't. And it's really interesting too in that women can carry a lot more shame sometimes than men. And for example, like, you could go to a wedding, right? And you could drink too much at this wedding and just wake up like so ashamed, just so hurt that you were embarrassed yourself the night before, that you acted out of character, just so ashamed, right? Women carry so much shame. Whereas a man in the same situation, again, this is not typecast, this is not 100% across the board, he might wake up and literally laugh about it and literally text his buddies like, hey, you hungover too, right? I'm just saying that's kind of normal in our culture. And so again, it's often that women sometimes are listening to this voice, this deeper voice inside of them, that alcohol's not really serving me. And so you might want to make a change and your partner might not. And that needs to be okay. That needs to be okay, right? Because in so many ways, especially at the beginning, we think that we can't do this unless our partner does it too. And the thing around that is that, like, there's so many things that we do independently. There's so much in life that we go for. Like, imagine if you wanted to run a marathon. Imagine if you wanted to go back to school and get a graduate degree. Imagine if you wanted to, literally do anything for yourself, start a new hobby or a new passion. Obviously, it would be nice if your partner joined you for some of those things, but would it really do you have to have your partner sign up for the half marathon with you for you to run a half marathon? Do you have to have your partner go back to graduate school with you to go get a master's degree? I mean, that one, it makes it really sound ridiculous. Like, of course not. I'm doing this for me, right? They don't have to do it. And so, in so many ways, we need to really get strong and independent in our own choices to make changes and allow our partner to just be on their own journey. People need autonomy to change, right? Like, people need a lot of autonomy, and they are often so much more influenced by our actions than our words. And so our partner will probably have no desire to go alcohol free at first, right? But you have no idea what would happen if you continued this journey 1 year, 2 years later. They literally might get a lot more interested in it, right? Now, what happens if your partner isn't interested in it? Is that okay with you? Can you be okay with the fact that they choose to drink and you don't? Is that okay with you? Do you allow permission for that to happen? Now, I'll be honest with you, my partner does drink. We drank a lot together. When I changed my relationship with alcohol, basically what it happened is over time he slowed down on the drinking, right? So now he drinks a lot less frequently. And I'll tell you, he supports my business 100%. He totally gets it. And he has no false illusions around alcohol anymore. Like, he knows when he's gonna drink that it won't feel good. He knows that, right? He's not protecting alcohol anymore. He does it occasionally with when he's socializing or for a wedding or whatever, but he sees it for what it is. And oftentimes he will take a break, and oftentimes too he'll wake up after a drink and just be like, "Oh, that wasn't worth it." Like, he has his own conclusions and he can come around to his own thing. But guess what? I don't need him to be alcohol free. It doesn't matter. It doesn't like make any changes with us. So that's just the first thing to kind of keep in mind, is that you making changes, you have no idea how it actually could influence your partner, but not at first. At first, like, you have to just go for it yourself. You have no idea what will happen. And two, it doesn't maybe look like what you think it's going to look like, Like, it doesn't mean that they have to completely go alcohol free and never drink again for you to be happy. It could be just this different arrangement where alcohol literally just becomes smaller in your life. Smaller for you because you don't drink at all, and maybe smaller for him in that, like, he can drink with other people. He can go out with his friends, right? He doesn't have to share that with you. He shares something much bigger and stronger with you. And so here's this other huge thing that often comes up. It's not just that we're talking about alcohol here. As humans, we are so scared of change. And we are often, especially in a relationship, in a partnership, we are so terrified that if one person changes, then means, well, I will be left behind. That if my partner changes, I'm going to be left behind. Maybe they're going to outgrow me. Maybe they literally won't even like me anymore. And that is a really, really deep fear. That is a huge, huge, deep fear. And so there's so many ways to tackle this, like this fear of what if, they change and they leave me behind. And it's probably actually very likely that in the subconscious of your partner that they might fear that there's a part of them that doesn't want you to change because they think that you growing will mean that they're behind, and then you guys have that rift, right? And there's one way to really honestly tackle this in the sense of just like strategically, like how to work through this. So I think it's like best, especially the way I teach going alcohol free is literally by taking a break and experimenting with it and allowing yourself to fall in love with the alcohol lifestyle first. Then you get to decide what you do for forever. And you don't even have to decide about forever, but you decide what you're going to do for the long term once you've already fallen in love with alcohol free living. And so at the same time, you don't ever have to tell your partner, "That's it, I quit, no more drinking, I'm never going to drink with you again." That's a lot to swallow, right? That's a huge change for someone to be able to comprehend. And so the way I did it with my husband, and this is a strategy I talk about in Become Euphoric in week 4. If you have that, if you haven't gotten into Become Euphoric, be sure to get into it, because a lot of these bigger topics and issues are really discussed in there with strategies for you to follow. But basically, it's this idea of leaving breadcrumbs. It's idea that like you don't make this big proclamation, about how much you're changing that can really scare them a little bit, but that you leave breadcrumbs and start hinting at this change that you're making. So what do I mean by that? Well, basically, if you're taking a break from alcohol, like first of all, it's a break, and you're just like, hey, I'm gonna take a little break from alcohol. I'm not feeling too great. I want to really feel better. I'm just gonna take a break, whatever. Okay? Like that shouldn't be that threatening. And then as you're taking your break, you can start sharing things like, oh my gosh, wow, I'm waking up feeling so much better. I'm waking up with so much more energy. Like my sleep was really good last night. And basically, what you're doing is you're starting to give them these little breadcrumbs about how much happier and healthier you feel when you're taking a break from alcohol. And you keep leaving them. You're just like, oh, I feel so good. Or like, wow, it was so nice to like wake up and not regret what I did last night. Just whatever it is, it's just like a small little hint, a small little clue that you feel so much better without alcohol. So that by the time you go longer and longer in your break from alcohol, and maybe it's time to say, you know what, I don't think I'm going to go back to drinking at this point, at least this point, right? I'm not saying for forever, but just like right now, the thing is that your partner has learned that this little journey you've gone on has actually made you really happy. Why do they know that? Because they got all these breadcrumbs from you. They learned about how you literally feel so much better in your skin. And they probably learned a little bit about, let me tell you the truth. When I was insecure about my relationship with alcohol, when I didn't feel well, when I was like in my shame cave, where I berated myself, when I recriminated myself, all of that stuff, all of that drama, my husband didn't know a peep of it. I never opened up to him and shared how much pain alcohol brought me when I was still drinking. It was only when I took a break and started going alcohol free that I finally started sharing that with him. And guess what? My vulnerability brought us closer together. He had no idea that I was struggling with so many negative, swarms of thoughts, right? And so not only am I sharing the breadcrumbs of the positivity, but I'm also opening up a little bit more into what alcohol really felt like for me. That by the time I'm in a break after a few months, and I'm like, you know what, I really want to keep going with this, my husband's not surprised, right? He could read the clues, he could see the breadcrumbs. And also, not only is he not surprised, he also knows that this is making me happy. And ultimately, out of the deepest love, from the deepest part of our hearts, we want our partner to be happy, right? Not like our egoistic part of ourselves, but the deeper soul part of ourselves, we want our partner to be happy. And so that's just a strategy to use to get them on board and to really get them to understand why this is important for you and why you care about this so much without it being such a big shock to your way of life, right? So the breadcrumb strategy can really work like that. Now, I was mentioning earlier how change brings up a lot of fear in humans, and that there's this fear that if someone changes, the other person will be left behind because you grew this way and they still stayed here. Now, this can even manifest in the most benign scenario. So let me give you another example from me and my husband. My husband and I ran a half marathon together, and so we trained together and we really enjoyed it. We both ran. I think I beat him. But what ended up happening after that is my husband continued to really, really incorporate running into his life, and I didn't. So my husband sometimes wakes up early to run, he'll run in the evening, all this stuff. And I can find myself sometimes annoyed, like, oh, you have to go run. You can't eat dinner right now, you have to go run. I can even find myself being annoyed. Now, do I not want my husband to be a runner? Do I not want my husband to have a hobby that gives him joy? Do I not want my husband to be healthy and fit and working out and lowering his risk of diseases? Of course not, right? My annoyance is probably much more to do with the fact that he outgrew me in running and now I'm the one who's behind. Now I'm the one who can't run as fast. Now I can't keep up. Now that is literally one of the silliest examples because it's so little and it's such a non-consequential thing in our lives. But you can see how this could actually play out in so many ways. So our partners might fear that we will outgrow them and that ultimately that means maybe we'll leave them behind. How do you combat this fear that they might have? It is so important when you're in a partnership or when you're in a relationship and you're changing and they're not, and that's okay. You have to accept that that's okay. They need autonomy to change. And in fact, they'll be way more influenced to change after watching you for a year than you just talking at them to stop drinking, right? So, like, go on your own journey knowing that you might be influencing them in a beautiful way, But how do we actually combat that fear that they could have of you leaving them behind? Is that you have to focus on quality time together. You can't just leave them behind in the sense that, like, half of the activities you used to do involve drinking, now you're not doing those, so like he's alone and you're whatever. Quality time is going to be so important for you to focus on. And you have to make an intention to actually make sure that you're spending just as much quality time together as you did before. Only this time, let me tell you, I bet you it's going to have a lot more quality to it and so much more presence to it and so much more connection to it versus before, right? Versus before when you guys just get buzzed and you guys literally can't connect because alcohol numbs your emotions. I mean, that's really not pure connection at all. So how did me and my husband do this? So in so many creative ways. So first of all, I mentioned we ran a half marathon together. So we literally both signed up for a half marathon. And instead of taking our date night with wine or to a brewery or to a game night or whatever, our date night started to become our practice runs together. We would literally, on a Friday night in the evening, we would put on our running shoes and we would go run together, first for 3 miles, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, then 10, whatever the, increase is. And we literally ran side by side. It was so cute, and we would just talk. Like we were getting our tolerance up for running, or our, whatever it is, our endurance up for running, so that we could literally just talk while we were running. It was such a special time that we shared that together. We also really got into board games. So at home, instead of just sitting and watching a movie and drinking wine, we started playing board games, and we started really getting into like really cool, I don't know, like not just Monopoly, right? Like we got into like the whole world of board games. My husband's is basically like a board game geek, you could say. He buys games all the time. We probably have over 40 games. And we just started like one night, we'll play this game, another night we'll play that game, right? We started also spending a lot more time outside together, right? So instead of, again, going somewhere to go drink, we'll make sure that we go on a hike or something like that. And I bet you there's something your husband wants to do more of. Maybe it's something like sailing. Maybe it's something like hiking. Maybe it's something like mountain biking. Maybe, I don't know what it is, but I bet you there's something that maybe if he has like a bucket list of things he wants to kind of get involved into life, or maybe a new way to start moving his body more, there's going to be something that you could share. Really, there is. And by you being like clear-headed and having all the energy, you might actually be the impetus to get you guys both into that. So if you know your husband always wants to go sailing but just doesn't really incorporate it into his life, you might be actually have the impetus to be like, "Hey, why don't we go on that sailing lesson this Saturday?" And then he's like, "Okay, sure," right? Like obviously he wants to get into that, but he needed the push. He needed someone to actually, like arrange it and make it happen and have it happen for you. So I want you to think in this light of there's ultimately infinite possibilities of how you could grow closer together, and that you are not serving your partner's ego anymore. You are serving their soul. Now, what do I mean by this? I think all of us have what's called a higher self that is literally our connection to our soul, our connection to the most wisest version of us, the most loving version of us, right? And then obviously there's parts of us that aren't that higher self. They're really driven by our ego. They're really driven by, our appearances or our selfishness or just these smaller parts of our personality that maybe aren't as admirable. And so we have our higher self, and let's just call it our lower self to make it super simple. And so you need to think about, how can I serve my partner's higher self, not their lower self? Their lower self might not like me changing. Their lower self might be, like complaining that I won't go drink with them or whatever it is. Their lower self might be stuck in that, but how can I serve their higher self? Their higher self that wants to have a connected relationship with you where you guys go try new things. I mean, maybe traveling and trying and exploring new things on the weekends is something that you will really incorporate into your relationship. Maybe his higher self wants to get more fit in this time of his life, and actually wants to start and working on some kind of new health plan or something like that. Maybe his higher self, really, really wants to actually make some changes. Who knows? And honestly, it's not about what changes they make with their relationship with alcohol. It really isn't about what they're doing with the glasses. It's really how you believe and you feel you guys can come together at the end of the day and be in a really solid relationship together. So I'm going to actually, this is this part of this one book that I really love. And I'm going to share you an example of what it means to really serve someone's higher self versus their lower self. Like the lower self has all these petty fears. It's the thing that's driven literally by fear and by worry and by doubt. Whereas our higher selves are more evolved, they're more wise, they're more brave, they're more connected to the things that matter the most in our world. And I share this passage often with my clients, so let me just read it for you. It's in a completely different example than drinking versus not drinking, but I think different examples help us think a little differently. Are you waiting for someone to give you money or to decide you can go to school, get a job, or make a change that you want to make? Give yourself permission to do what you want to do with your life. Decide you are going to take action toward your goal. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission to quit your job and do what you love with your life. If you give up your goals, dreams, and aliveness to be with people, you aren't truly doing them a favor. You will in some way demand that they give up the same thing. The only way you can truly love and support others is to support their aliveness and growth. And one of the best ways to do that is to support your own aliveness and growth. Give yourself permission to do what you love and want to do. True love is serving people's souls, not their personalities. For instance, one man did not want his wife to get a job, although she felt it would bring her much joy and aliveness. He thought he made enough money to support the family, and he wanted her to stay home and take care of the house and the family's needs. She was pulled between staying home and going back to work, because she had always felt compelled to take care of others. She began to look at the situation through the eyes of her soul, and she saw that she was not serving her husband's soul. She was serving only his personality, his smaller self, not his greater self. She knew that by going to work, by growing, becoming happy, and increasing her aliveness, she would be much more powerful, and that her power would empower him as well, even if he didn't believe it at the time. She knew that at the soul level, the greatest gift she could give him was to be all that she could be, for it would free him to be all that he could be as well. She realized that at any time you hold another person back, you were also holding yourself back. And by trying to hold her back, her husband was at some level holding himself back. So she got a job. He was not happy with her decision, objected loudly, and gave her many reasons why it would not work. He made it difficult for her to go to work, complaining frequently and not helping her in any way. She kept reminding herself that she was serving his soul, and if one of them broke through to a new level of personal power and higher purpose, it would help the other one do so also. She still had moments of feeling that she was being selfish by going to work, but the inner joy of learning made her feel so alive that she knew she couldn't sacrifice that aliveness and still love herself or him. Eventually, they were able to use some of her income to pay off their debts, and even take a long postponed and much-needed vacation. He stopped complaining about her working, and even began to like the changes in their lives. He was able to spend some money on a hobby he wanted to pursue, and his sense of aliveness began increasing. A few years later, he decided to quit his job, which he had not liked for a long time, and got into business for himself. Although it was a risk and meant less income in the beginning, they were able to take the risk because her salary, combined with a loan, was enough to launch his new career. Her willingness to pursue her path eventually made it possible for her husband to pursue his life's work. Her commitment to her aliveness brought them both more aliveness. Now, I think that's a powerful example, because in this example, literally, someone doesn't want the other person to change, and yet the woman can tell that by holding someone else back, you're really holding yourself back. And it's so crazy because me going alcohol-free has literally made a ripple effect in so many of the relationships in my life. But it's not just helping other people change their relationship with alcohol. By me going alcohol-free, I've become more alive. I've become closer with my partner because we share more of our inner stories and our inner lives together. I have literally taken the risk to launch a business and quit my job and write a book, all these things. That has literally influenced and created ripple effects to other people in my life because of that bravery I took. It's not just that one little thing of alcohol. You becoming more alive is literally how you empower other people. You inspire other people. You can't play small for the comfort level of someone else. Because here's the thing. Even though you think you're doing it for someone else, oh, I won't change my relationship with alcohol because my husband won't like it and we won't drink together, you're literally playing small for someone else. And you're abiding by their comfort, not their soul. You're abiding by their lower self, not their greater self, their higher self. And guess what will happen to you over time? Resentment. Resentment that you kept yourself small and you kept yourself less alive for another person. And how would this manifest? So there was a point where my business was kind of making some money, but not like enough money to sustain like a living on, right? And I really had to decide, like, is this time for me to quit my job yet or not? I really wanted to work full time in my business. And I was talking to some girlfriends about it, and I remember saying to them, ultimately, deep down, I'm scared of quitting my job and having it tear up my marriage. So, what I was scared of is that I would quit my job, I wouldn't make enough money in my business, I would deplete my savings, my husband and I would fight about it. And literally, like, he would feel that I just threw us under the bus and that ultimately would break up our marriage. When I really got down to what was the worst case scenario, that was it. Of me quitting my job wasn't that I'd end up under a bridge one day, it was that it would break up my marriage. That was my deepest fear. And I remember telling that to a friend, and she was like, you know what else could break up a marriage? Resentment. Resentment that you stayed stuck in a career that wasn't fulfilling your soul to make your husband's smaller self happy just for a moment in time. Resentment that you felt that you gave up your dreams to, possibly not, rock the tide or rock the boat with your marriage. The resentment of feeling that you gave up on something that you really wanted to do because you wanted to play it safe for your marriage. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right. If I didn't eventually quit my job and go for my business full time, I would big time resent my husband if he was the number one reason why I didn't do it. And that would also cause a big drift with us. And so ultimately, I want to leave you with this one thing. Have faith. Have faith that you becoming more alive, more empowered, more connected to your truer feelings will actually make you a better partner, will actually develop your relationship better. Now, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day whether your partner chooses to follow you or to not. That's not the point necessarily. The point is that you believe that no matter what you do versus what he does, there is room for you to share and to grow and to make this partnership better than it ever was before. We don't get so particular and say, oh, our partner has to do this, but not this, but this, da da da. You know what I mean? Usually we meet someone that we vibe well with, and even if they don't share our religion or if they don't share, something like this or that, like, it's not a deal breaker. And yet somehow, like with this, it's like it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It shouldn't matter what their habits are. As long as you are changing your relationship with alcohol, they also won't be a trigger for you because you're going to remove your desires from a subconscious level. And so if anything, everyone also watching this video struggles with, well, when my partner drinks, it tempts me to want to drink. That's a problem on you. It really is. It's a problem on you in that you haven't looked at your beliefs on alcohol yet and you haven't worked through them fully. Now, that's a problem that you can solve, right? Like, that's something I love to help women with. Like, there's my programs that literally focus on just that. And so, like, it's not this thing that will bother you forever if you really take action on it today. You know what I mean? And you have no idea what beautiful future might come. What if you slowly take a break from alcohol, you give the breadcrumbs to your husband, you continue to focus on quality time together, you actually become a better partner to them because you're so much more connected with your aliveness, your love, your empowerment. You end up getting inspired and you launch a new business, and this new business starts making you money and it starts really feeding in your nest egg and your travel fund. And like 2 years later, your husband looks at you and you guys go on more vacations and you have so much more fun together, and it's inspired him to launch a business. And he looks at you and he's literally like, you taking that break from alcohol 2 years ago was the best thing that ever happened to our relationship. Wouldn't that be amazing? And why wouldn't that be possible? Even if the outcome isn't that he also took the break. What if that's not the point? What if the point is that this is a call for both of you to slowly start living more alive and more empowered lives? And it could look differently for you in that sense that for you it's through this alcohol-free journey, but maybe for him it's through a different journey. And we have to be okay with it playing out in different ways in our lives. I had so much fun, coming on today and really talking about this topic. It's really near and dear to my heart because I really, really have so much faith in the power and the love. We don't get married to someone because of what they drink. We get married to them because we love them for who they are. And I want you to remember that your partner loves you for who you are, not for what's in your glass. and take time with it. There will be time where this change does make a little, whoa, that's weird that she's doing that now. Have grace, have compassion, allow it to settle. Don't jump to conclusions that this will tear your marriage apart on your first week or two. Allow yourself to have faith that this actually could grow you closer together, that this could inspire your husband to make big changes in his life. Maybe it's not about alcohol, but maybe it's about getting healthier. Maybe it's about launching a business he's wanted to do. He seeing you empowered and alive gives him that same spirit. And 2 years later, he's literally telling you this is the best thing you ever did because it's changed both of your lives for the better. My husband can definitely say that about us. We're going to live in Europe this summer. None of that would have been possible if I didn't first take a break from alcohol 4.5, 5 years ago. You have no idea what could happen. Have faith. I hope that was helpful. So many different strategies and good tips here. I hope that you were able to see things from a different perspective. I love the mantra, help me to see things differently, because we often get just so stuck in one way of seeing things, and we have to be able to expand and evolve and really believe that there's so many creative solutions out there available to us. Have a lovely rest of your day.